Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about a huge update that came from CD Projekt yesterday, because they had the investors call that they have every single year, where they actually go into detail on what's been happening with the studio, what they achieved so far, and what are the plans moving forward. Now, what I didn't expect is that they will release a 24-minute video presentation where they go into detail on what's happening and what they are planning to do. And obviously they go a lot into detail what's been happening within the studio, not that much within the studio, but they do acknowledge that Cyberpunk 2077 did not meet the standards of quality that we hold them up to, and obviously all of the problems that came with Cyberpunk 2077 reflected on the studio. So in the presentation, you have Adam Kaczynski, the CEO of the company, Mikhail Novakovsky, Pavel Zawodny, which is the new CTO of the company, the new Chief Technical Officer, and he's also the head of production, and also Piotr Nielubowicz, the CFO of the company, is also joining in that presentation. So we're gonna be going through their strategic development framework that they came up with, because they have like the 3 pillars which make CDPR as they are. So we're gonna be going into all of that. They also went into detail regarding The Witcher, regarding online, regarding the future Cyberpunk content. So there is a lot to break down here. Without further wasting your time, let's get into it. And if you could please click that like and subscribe button, because it does help with the algorithm on YouTube. Thank you so much, and let's get into it. So first things first, Adam Kaczynski, the CEO of the company, goes into detail about the mission and the values of the company. That's the usual corporate stuff that you put in presentations, but as it says here, the mission is to create revolutionary story-driven RPGs, which go straight to hearts of gamers from around the world, to be counted among the world's top 3 video game developers, to ensure a lasting place for our brands in the global popular culture. By this third thing, they do mean, extra activities on the IP, including like the anime, films, books, comics, etc., the merchandise. And the reason why it's there is because this is primarily an investors presentation, and investors love to hear merchandise. They love that word. So this is the mission of the company as presented here. Obviously, with the release of Cyberpunk 2077, that mission has been severely damaged in the eyes of the community. Now also, their core values, as they say here, is quality as our top priority. Now hopefully that stays for the future and we don't get the same thing with Cyberpunk. Now, passionate team as our greatest strength, I hope that also stays, because I said long time ago that if you want people to develop good games, if you want talented people to work and create their best, you need to give them a good work environment. You need to give them enough time, enough communication, and enough resources for them to actually work on something they love, and something that they're going to create is going to be something good. Now also, they do say here independence, which is true. CDPR is an independent studio, and technically they can make whatever they want for as long as they make money for their investors. And here it says gamer-centric approach, which again has been shaken to its core, and hopefully that changes for the future. Now, they presented the 3 pillars of basically that development process that they want to go into, so we're going to be going through that. The 3 pillars of CD Projekt is, first off, RED, their studio, their development studio. Now, they're gonna be transforming that into RED 2.0. And the reason why they want to transform the studio is because they want to have a parallel development of AAA games. That means that they're gonna be working on The Witcher and Cyberpunk IP at the same time, which ultimately is something they were striving to create even long before Cyberpunk came out. They said that after Cyberpunk comes out, they will focus on, making games parallel, so that, the same thing doesn't happen where you develop the game for so long and then that game comes out and it has issues. It can definitely shake your studio to its core. Now look, from the financial standpoint, if we only look from the investors and financial standpoint, Cyberpunk 2077 was not unsuccessful, it did sell. But on the long term and how their future sales are going to go, obviously the release of Cyberpunk 2077 is going to definitely cut that down. Now, obviously, the second pillar is building out. That means building out the Witcher and Cyberpunk franchises, and by that they mean actually expanding to other stuff, mobile partnerships with other, companies, including TV shows, TV series, merchandise, anime, etc., etc. So that means that in the future, we're definitely going to see more Witcher stuff and more Cyberpunk franchise stuff. That means outside of the main game. And the third thing is obviously to expand to online. That's the third pillar. Now, by online, they said that they are actually just rethinking the strategies when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077 online, that it's now too early to talk about it, or basically they didn't want to go and develop Cyberpunk 2077 online or Cyberpunk online or whatever it's gonna be called, because their core game is suffering, their core game is not good. And I've seen people talking like they cancel online, what's gonna be happening with the future of this game. Trust me, like, online is the least of your worries here. If the core game is not good, if the core technology is not good, if their services within the company are not good, then your online experience is not going to be good, so technically you will achieve nothing. If it comes out and it's broken, then you achieve nothing, and then ultimately that's not gonna be good for their studio. So one thing I'm definitely applauding is that they're waiting with the online element, and they do say a couple of times here that they are going to stay a studio which focuses on single player AAA titles. No online until it actually works. So obviously they're gonna be increasing the role of their CTO, because they need to build a strong technological foundation for online to even be considered to work. So it does seem that that online is gonna go around GOG Galaxy, which is some thing with Gwent. If you want to play Gwent, you go through GOG. So I do think that their other online games are gonna be going through GOG, which makes things easier. And the only way for their online to actually work is if all of this works. If these two pillars down here don't work, then online is just basically a waste of time. Now, by online, they also mentioned other IPs, that means The Witcher. Now, does it mean that we are going to see something online from The Witcher in the future, from their AAA title? We don't know. And even if that happens, it's not gonna be anytime soon. But first, we need to see the reorganization of the studio before we even talk about that online mode. So I'm glad that they're keeping the online for the third thing, and it's not, at least so far, it's not being the center of attention in the studio. Now, the most important thing here in the first pillar they talk about is turning their, development sides into more agile thing. That means, because they want to work parallel on The Witcher and Cyberpunk, they're gonna be using developers from teams so they can scramble, so they can be more agile. That means people working on Cyberpunk are gonna be moving to The Witcher to see what they can do here. People from The Witcher are gonna be moving to Cyberpunk development to see what they can do there. And if they actually do have a certain, let's say, game mechanic that they developed, or one part of the game, that game mechanic is gonna be going through more hands, through more, opinions, in order to properly work and in order to be actually maximized, so that in the future that game mechanic works and it's not complete waste of time. They're also redefining and empowering the CTO role, which is definitely needed. The CTO definitely needs to go through the company and see what they can do, because as I said, their technical side of the company, technology wise, they need to improve. On that front, they are extremely weak. Now also, as they said, they're gonna be centralizing the RED engine to serve on 2 franchises. If you do remember from Capcom, why Capcom can release so many games simultaneously? Because they have a good engine that enables them to work on multiple projects at the same time. That's why you have Resident Evil this, Resident Evil that. That's why you have a new Resident Evil game coming out every single year, because their engine allows them that, and that's definitely something good if you have a good engine which is going to, you know, be agile for both IPs and for more IPs in the future. So at least on that end, it definitely makes sense. And all of this is happening, as I said, because they want to streamline the development process, because they don't want the same thing, burnout from the devs, to happen again, even though it did happen with The Witcher 3 and it happened in Cyberpunk 2077. I do hope it's not the same problem for the future, especially if they are gonna be developing 2 AAA titles in the future. That definitely needs to be thought out very carefully. So the roadmap for 2021. So far, when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077, the first thing they want to do is release patches and updates until the game is actually good. Until the game is fixed, they will keep, giving out patches and updates. They're gonna be giving free DLCs, and by DLCs in CDPR it's a bit different, because a DLC is a free piece of content, small piece of content, and an expansion is a huge paid piece of content. So far, and I don't know what's gonna be happening in the future, but CD Projekt, when they say DLCs, they mean free stuff. So free DLCs for this year, and the next gen update only when the core game is actually finished and fixed. They will then work on the next gen update. When it comes to The Witcher, they have The Witcher Monster Slayer, which is the new mobile game that they're developing with Spoko. It's basically an augmented reality game where you go hunt monsters, you know, it's like Pokemon Go, but then they also have The Witcher 3 next gen update, which is coming in the second half of 2021. That's something we have been waiting for a very long time. Now, the next gen update is not developed by CDPR, it's been outsourced, same as the Nintendo Switch version of The Witcher 3 was outsourced to a different company. Now, I do believe that the same company is working on the next gen update, so, you know, that's gonna be good. Now, I wouldn't be scared of the next gen update. I don't think we are going to see problems with that. And they're also going to be focusing on further development of Gwent, and Gwent kind of serves for them as a good testing ground for their online services to see, because Gwent is one thing, but when you want to create an online of, let's say, Cyberpunk, an online of, let's say, The Witcher, obviously that's a bigger thing, and it cannot be easily controlled and done as Gwent, for example, on that end. So this is what they're planning in 2021. Now, they also go into their usual corporate stuff, like, you know, comfortable, open, empowering spaces for developers, you know, where they're gonna be giving developers all they need to work properly on their games and to develop games and all of that. Now, so far, this is just a presentation when it comes to that. Until we see it in action, until we actually see proper changes in the studio, that's when I'm going to go and say, oh, okay, so you're working towards something. You know, whenever I see a presentation like this, it's always like, is it going to happen? What's going on? Hopefully it is. I do want the studio to be good again. Now, is it going to be? We shall see what happens. Now, also, CD Projekt went into the partnership, or well, acquisition of Digital Scapes. That's a studio based in Vancouver, Canada. And Digital Scapes, for all of you that don't know, is made from the veterans of BioWare, etc, etc. So a lot of people which worked in these studios before, the veterans of those companies when they were making all of those great games, most of them are now working for Digital Scapes in that one company. So this is a great thing for CD Projekt, because I do believe people who are working for Digital Scapes, especially when it comes to their expertise and knowledge throughout all of these years, is definitely going to help, you know, CD Projekt in general. Now, how much we shall see again when things, you know, open up later on in the year, but it does seem that CDPR, or well, CD Projekt Capital Group, is going towards acquisitions, and they said here that if they do see other interesting things, they're going to be going into that as well. So it does seem that money is flowing, that money is on a rampage. And now they will actually have to spend a lot of stuff, obviously, on fixing Cyberpunk 2077, but at least they're investing money to actually make their studio better. So that's, again, a positive thing. You will have a lot of studios which are just going to continue down the same path. And again, to be honest, I was not expecting for them to do this reorganization this quickly. Okay, Now they also go into detail with their games and what their games are presented. The Witcher being a pure RPG, The Witcher 3 being RPG with action elements, and Cyberpunk 2077 being RPG with action and shooter elements. Now RPG, it's not a deep RPG, it's an RPG, but it's not a deep RPG, and it's definitely not the RPG we got used to from CD Projekt. Now, they're gonna be also broadening the franchises all over, so what we see here is that the core gaming side of The Witcher and Cyberpunk, a single-player game developed next-gen in the pipeline, expansions developed in the pipeline, online experience for Cyberpunk is still in the pipeline. People said that it's cancelled or something. It's not cancelled, it's more postponed until they actually have proper technical side of the company, and until they reorganize everything before they go into online in general. And of course we do see mobile here, which is long-term consideration, so I'm guessing we are going to see some Cyberpunk stuff on mobile in the future. It's just a natural flow that we're gonna be seeing later through their different chart. Now also, when it comes to content, it does seem that the long-term consideration for Cyberpunk is actually making a live-action film, going and partnering with other studios and production companies to actually do that. That's gonna be interesting if it's done. Anime is in the pipeline, and then basically everything else, is gonna be here. I also like that anime side is in the pipeline, because that's also something that Netflix has been working on. So that partnership generally doesn't mean with CD Projekt, it means with Andrzej Sapkowski, but they do actually go into detail here, which is interesting, but we'll see what happens generally with this. They might have just thought about different things about Netflix, which is not directly again with CD Projekt, but with Andrzej Sapkowski. He owns the rights for that. CDPR just owns the right to make video games, and I do believe merchandise. They're the only ones who can sell Witcher merchandise. Now, the reason why they said this is because there is something called a flywheel, which is something that they use to develop their project. So, for example, they have an IP, The Witcher. So, first things that they do is develop AAA RPG. And then they have people who are playing that. And then they expand into other stuff, being merchandise. And then they create additional content for that game, including Gwent and Monster Slayer. And obviously, as they were releasing The Witcher, the flywheel was spinning faster and faster, meaning they had more people, playing the game, and obviously that means more money, that means more merchandise sold, that means they can, go into other activities regarding The Witcher. Now, they're gonna be doing the same thing with Cyberpunk 2077. So, here they said updates and free DLCs in 2021, next-gen release and free next-gen update in the second half of 2021, expansions in progress, addition of online elements in progress. They're gonna be going, using the player base that bought their game. They expanded into other things, which includes TV shows, which includes the anime, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and then they're gonna be releasing other gaming related content, for that IP. Now, it seems that this is gonna be continuing with the next iteration of Cyberpunk and whatever happens, so we're gonna be having a similar thing when it comes to releases and everything they do, but this time obviously they're also striving to have that parallel game development. So all in all, you have From To section, which is like, alright, focus on AAA RPGs and then 2 genre blending with AAA RPG core. I do hope it stays an RPG, an actual RPG. Single player plus online, but again, they said multiple times that there's still gonna be single player studio. Then they have sequential IP development, parallel IP development, that means 2 games being worked on at the same time, which is obviously going to give you more games from CD Projekt. Then they had waterfall development, which wasn't going well. By that they mean, the company's layered, middle management, developers, upper management, CEO, management, blah, blah, blah. Now they're gonna have an agile delivery on that sense, which means, developers are gonna be switching from one place to another. They're gonna be able to work on this and that. Hopefully that system works. I do hope it works. And obviously they went from AAA game focus to AAA game focus plus broad IP ecosystem, mobile and beyond gaming, which is obviously they're gonna be focusing on other things, including that anime section, etc, etc. And here they have quality focused, and then here team and quality focused. I hope it stays that way. I hope that actually things turn out as they are. And also a very important thing when it comes to marketing, they're going to change their marketing strategy. That means they're gonna be marketing games closer to release. They're not gonna have games as it was with Cyberpunk 2077, where marketing starts, boom, delay. Marketing starts, boom, delay. So obviously they're not gonna be having that. Also, they're gonna change their marketing strategy to focus more on actual demos and presentations of actual gameplay on all platforms. CDPR, please, please, just give it as it is. And I'm sure if future games have problems, if you go out and openly say, look, we have this problem, we have this problem, I don't think the community is going to be that mad. I honestly don't. If developers are, if the management is honest, that means better. And also what they want to achieve with this agile workspace is that you don't longer have this huge lack of logic between the marketing side and the development side, because let's face it, marketing was telling one thing about Cyberpunk, development was telling the other. So obviously that has to change. And that means if they are gonna be focusing more on showing actual gameplay and showing actual demos, it's much better. Because I said that, you know, animation and that CGI trailers, they can work at some point, but they cannot be the core of marketing. They cannot be that core of marketing, not anymore. So obviously that strategy change, which I hope actually works, but they're still gonna be teasing projects in the future if they do have something else, you know, which is early in development. They're gonna be teasing that, but they are not gonna be marketing the game until it's very close to release, which I do applaud, because it's better to work in silence sometimes and just to focus on that without having the pressure of the outside. Where is the game? What's going on? Just keep it as is. That's why you don't hear anything about the next GTA or the next game that Rockstar is working on. They don't want you to know. They're developing that game right now in silence. And trust me, as soon as they're ready, you're gonna see the trailer for the next GTA or whatever the next game from Rockstar is. But they don't want to tell you. That's how they work, and they know that. That's just how it is with Rockstar. So overall, I think that this is good steps, and it happened fast, which I'm definitely glad it did happen, because studio definitely needed a break. They definitely needed to stop and say, like, we need to rethink what we're doing. Otherwise, it's going to lead us to our doom, because CDPR can only make so many mistakes before their value drops and investors leave. So obviously they have to do this fast when it comes to reorganizing stuff. So I mean, so far these are just presentations and words. They do have a new CTO, which is great, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. Like, so far just words, but let's see if this is actually, you know, done in action and if it actually works. But yeah, you can tell me down below what you think about all of this. You can also watch the full presentation. I'm going to leave you a link down below. Tell me what you think about all of this. Also, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button, and I do have Odyssey, which is a YouTube alternative if you want to check me out there. Join us on our growing community on Twitter and Discord, and I do have a Patreon page. If you want to support the channel in an extra way, you can do it there. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and I'll see you everyone in the next video. Bye bye.